Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome to today's segment on Wellness Wisdom, where we will explore the latest trends and insights in health and wellness and how they intersect with faith, family, and fitness. Today's guest has dedicated her career to helping busy moms prioritize their health and well-being while also honoring their faith and family values. Joining me today is Dr. LaToya Wiggins, a wellness advocate and self-care strategist for busy Christian moms. She transitioned from feeling worn out to winning and is passionate about coaching women of faith with children to adopt healthy habits using biblical principles. Dr. Wiggins is a doctor of physical therapy based in Baltimore, Maryland, and believes that no woman should struggle to take care of herself due to having a busy life. So whether you're a mom juggling multiple roles and responsibilities or simply looking for practical tips on how to prioritize your health and wellness, this episode is for you. So get ready for some wellness wisdom that will inspire and empower you to live your best life. So let's get started. Welcome, Dr. LaToya Wiggins.
Hey, Carol, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's absolutely my pleasure. And so why don't we just start off with a little bit of your background and how you became a wellness coach and self-care strategist?
Yes, so my journey actually began when I started my career as a physical therapist. So I remember this was like right after I finished the boards and I was waiting to get my official license in the mail for practicing physical therapy. So in the meantime, I'm like, okay, well, I have a few weeks to start work. So what can I do? So I wanted to start exercising and getting rid of the baby weight. This is when my oldest boy, my 13-year-old, he was still one at the time, I think 18 months. So I started working out. And then like 2 weeks later, that's when I began my career as a physical therapist. And they went hand in hand because initially when I started my workout journey, it was just to get fit, look good, I should say. I was just trying to look good, lose some weight. But being in the hospital environment, really working with patients every day, very sick patients, because this was in the inpatient hospital setting, it became more than just losing weight, getting fit, getting snatched. I wanted to be healthy, maintain good health, because a lot of my patients who I was seeing, most of their health problems, they were problems that you could prevent, so why not take on a actual healthy living journey? So as I got into the fitness lifestyle, I just fell in love with it. And then I started seeing people like coaching on, fitness. So I'm like, oh, this sounds like something I could do. So then fast forward a few years later, after I had my second son, an old classmate reached out to me about being a health coach. So I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. I kind of wanted to learn more about that. So when I started getting into health coaching, it just really opened up doors that I didn't even know it would open up. I was just thinking like, oh, I could teach somebody how to, eat healthy and lose weight. But it was just so much more I could do, as a health coach versus a physical therapist. I could actually really teach you how to prevent, those those health issues versus I'm trying to rehabilitate you from those health issues. So I really fell in love with being able to teach people how to get healthy, how to stay healthy, or if you have a health problem, let's minimize those health issues so you can stay out of the hospital. You can minimize the doctor's visits, right? So first it was just health focused. I should say physically, the physical health piece. But then as I grew my family, I saw how much the mental health was important also. I was a busy mom trying to juggle a career, juggle a business, take care of my two kids, and have a marriage, right? A healthy marriage, nurture my friendships. And I saw how important it was to really prioritize self-care, which is what I define as nourishing yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. They allow you, when you're nourishing all the different parts of yourself, it allows you to show up as a better mom, a better wife, a better employee, boss, whoever, right? So that's when I transitioned to the self-care strategist who teaches moms how to nourish themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So my journey began about 13 years ago and it's evolved over the years. Now I'm a mom of three and
Right.
that self-care piece has just really took on a whole another meaning. Initially, when I started self-care coaching, I only focused on the mental and the physical health. After I had my third son, that spiritual health became very important because it really helped me out of depression and anxiety. So that's kind of like a short version of how it's kind of evolved over time.
Sure. No, I like it. I can definitely relate to your journey. And I know there are a lot of moms out there that need what you provide because it really is hard. I mean, I have
Yes.
two sons myself. They're twins. They are college graduates now, but
All right.
man, when I was in the trenches, I absolutely had to learn how to prioritize myself, even as I was making sure that they were good and that
Yeah.
my marriage was good. So
hmm
let me ask you, how did you decide then that you would focus on Christian moms?
Yeah. So when I was talking about the evolution of my coaching journey, before it was just women. And then I saw the need to just focus on moms because that's who I relate to. I mean, of course, I have experience as a woman. I'm a woman, but I really, I guess most of the people in my circle, they were moms. So I really wanted to focus on catering to moms. And then again, after I had my third son, I really struggled for several months after I had him dealing with undiagnosed anxiety and depression.
Mm.
And during those several months before I really started healing, I was already I knew that I needed to strengthen my relationship with God. I was working on it, but I wasn't there yet.
Mhm.
I was taking it seriously, but again, I just wasn't I didn't feel like I was still doing what I needed to do on my
Okay.
end, of the relationship I have with God. And after several months of just trying to heal myself because I was already the self-care strategist, I felt like I already know what to do. I don't need help. I can help myself, right? But I had to get in that mindset and remind myself, LaToya, you have to do what you're teaching the other moms to do, which is get the support and accountability you need. So I remember after having a really bad day one day, after just seeing a mess everywhere and exploding at my family, just yelling and screaming about how nobody was helping me. I was tired of cleaning up after everybody else. I had a release. I went to my bedroom and would just cry my heart out on the bedroom floor and just was asking God just to please help me because I didn't like this person. I didn't want to be her anymore. And I was struggling. I did not know what to do. So I needed help. And I know beyond anything, he's the one who can heal me. I can't do
Mhm.
it on my own. I need him. He's going to heal me. I need him to heal me. So in that moment, I decided, LaToya, it's definitely time to get serious about your relationship with God. And I do feel like he led me to getting mental health therapy and learning different ways to prioritize my self-care in that season of my life. But that healing journey began with me recognizing I needed more of him and allowing him to give me clarity on what I needed to nourish myself to be a better mom, a better woman. So going through that experience, I said, you know what, LaToya, you were shying away from talking about, spirituality, being a Christian because you wanted to cater to all moms at first, but just knowing how impactful that your relationship with God has had on you, I got to give this to the other moms out there who are looking for that too, who are Christian. We teach them how to strengthen their relationship with God. Do those things to, you know, you may be you may have a strong relationship with God, but there may be still different things that you need to tweak. Maybe you might need to get in your word more. Maybe, it's ways you pray that can just be more strategic than just saying, same prayers that we grew up saying,
Right.
whatever the case may be. Being in community with other Christian moms, whatever the case may be. I felt like that was really important. So that's why I transitioned to just being a self-care strategist to moms to being a self-care strategist to Christian moms.
We'll be right back after this. You love your kids. You do your very best for them. But sometimes it feels like it's just not enough. And you're so sure you're the only one who feels this way. The truth is, you're not alone. It is also true that there are some things you're doing quite right. And there's a community who would love to exchange ideas with you. I'm Carol Maletta, creator of the Parenting 411, a portal for parents where I share information parents need through webinars and masterclasses. And not only that, the parents there support each other on this amazing journey in the Parenting 411 community group on Facebook. I can't wait to meet you in the community. And we're back with the Parenting 411. I noticed that earlier you had spoken about how you, in addition to you working on your relationship with God and your faith, you also sought professional mental counseling as well. And
Yes.
so a lot of people some people in the religious community will shy away from that. Well, what you need is faith, prayer, and that's all you need. And then maybe others who maybe don't have a religious practice or really have faith, and they lean more toward the professionals. But I like that you're talking about merging the two. I mean, because God created the professionals.
Exactly. Right.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you talked about that, because still, even now, there's still that resistance sometimes by people
Yes.
in the faith community to seek that professional help. So what is your personal approach to self-care, and how do you help busy moms prioritize it in their lives?
Yeah. So to me, my approach to self-care is really taking that time out to figure out what brings you peace, what brings you joy, and figuring out how to do that in the season of your life. So I have mine's the 13-year-old. Most of my children are young. So how can I incorporate self-care in my life as a busy mom? So for me, it's recognizing that if I want quiet time, I may have to get up a little bit earlier than they do. And I know it's not always perfect, especially if you have an infant or like my toddler, he's, sometimes he decides he wants to wake up a little bit earlier than he normally does. But being intentional, already putting it on your to-do list that, okay, the kids usually wake up around 7. Okay, maybe I'll just wake up, even if it's just 15 minutes earlier, 30 minutes earlier, to have that quiet time, maybe to have my Bible study, to have my prayer time with God. I always tell a lot of moms, for me, I get a lot of car therapy. So, a lot of times after I drop the kids off to school, before I come back in the house, I just sit there. I'm having my quiet time. I'm doing whatever it is I need to do with that quiet time. Whether that's just doing absolutely nothing, making some phone calls, listening to some uplifting music, my Bible studies, reading the Bible, whatever the case may be, I'm finding ways to get some quiet time in. I'm finding ways to even have self-care with the kids, because I feel like a lot of times people, since you hear the word self, you're thinking self-care is all about just alone time. And that's not the case.
Right.
But it's doing things with my kids that I feel like is nourishing to me as well, so they may have their certain shows. Some of those shows can be quite entertaining, and sometimes I don't want to watch them all day long. But hey, how about we put on, a show or movie that all of us enjoy? That's self-care, So, or, going for a walk, getting some fresh air, doing something that everyone enjoys. That's still me getting my self-care time in. Of course, they're getting their self-care time in. So it's really figuring what nourishes me. I enjoy, me personally, I love to dance. So a lot of the workouts that I do involves dancing. Anything that is like weight training or a little heavier intense, I usually have to do those in the group setting, because doing them alone is not going to be motivating. But if I'm in a environment with a lot of positive women, we're all uplifting, we're having fun together, it feels good. So even like those dreadful exercises, they feel good when I'm in that environment, but everybody don't always, some people prefer to work out by themselves. So it's really about figuring out what works for you. What you like. I love to read. I don't really have a lot of time, so I listen to a lot of audio books or podcasts, where some people, they're like, oh, I can't do the podcast, I need to cuddle up with a book. Great. So it's really about finding out what nourishes you and how you can fit that into your day, even if it's in small increments of time. 5 minutes. A lot of people think like, oh, just 5 minutes, but it is more than nothing, right? Because 0 minutes equals 0 minutes. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, they all add up. So that's really what I tell moms and help them figure out, because it's all about what works for you, not the other mom, not the other woman, not your mom, what was working for her, what works for you. And, of course, I give examples of what I like to do. And, if it resonates with you, great. Just like with other moms, I'm finding out what you do and like, oh, I never thought about that before. Let me try that, and see if it works for me. But yeah, so some things I do for self-care, again, is my Bible studies, connecting with other women for my Bible studies. I like to call it dancing, but it's exercise too. It's called soca aerobics here in Baltimore. That is extremely fun. And again, I just love being around those for women when I exercise. It's very motivating and uplifting. A lot of times just to having that quiet time of doing nothing. If I can just get some time to just lay across my bed and do nothing at all, that is a lot of my self-care right there. I don't really even have a lot of background noise. Just I actually drive in silence a lot now. Like I don't even really listen to music all the time. I'm just in silence. It makes me kind of gather my thoughts,
Yeah, good point. Good point. What would you say are some common challenges that Christian women have when it comes to self-care, and how can they overcome those challenges?
I feel like a lot of people think that self-care is selfish, especially if you're coming from a Christian background. We're created to serve. And that's true. So what I do, I remind people that yes, you're serving, but a lot of us, we've heard the term, you can't serve from an empty cup. So you do need to practice that self-care. And you're not coming from a place of selfish ambition. There's actually scriptures on that, about selfish ambition. We're not coming from a place of selfish ambition. You're doing this to pour into yourself so they can pour the best of yourself into your family, into your work. When you feel depleted, you're just getting by. So, for example, if you're working, you're just doing the bare minimum. You're not putting your best work forward. You're a mompreneur. You're not putting, you're not even able to tap into your great creativity because, again, you are just getting by. You're just trying to stay above water or trying to reach it, So I always remind people this is why we need to practice self-care, whether that's alone time or with other people. Biblically, I give people examples of that. Jesus rested. There are several different scriptures where it shows you Jesus retreating by himself and to do what? Have his solitude, to have his quiet time with his heavenly Father. So if Jesus was getting away from the crowd, why can't I? Why can't I? I always laugh about this one. It was a scripture where he and a few of the apostles, they were on a boat. They're in the middle of a storm and he's sleeping. And they're waking him up like, Lord, help us. Like they thinking we about to die. And Jesus, again, he was napping. He just woke up, rebuked the winds, and the storm stopped. And it's like, look, this man was trying to get his rest. He was not worried about that storm. So it makes me laugh about that. Like, look, that man cherished his rest. And then a good one is in Exodus, Moses, he was visiting his father-in-law. And they're just catching up. He's telling his father-in-law what was going on and pretty much all the work that he was doing. And his father-in-law was wondering, like, who was helping him? Nobody. Because a lot of times we're given these assignments and we're thinking that since we were given the assignment, we have to be the one to complete them. Nobody ever said that we can't have people to help us. So that's pretty much what his father-in-law was telling him. He said, you are going to wear yourself out. And that's when he gave him the idea of getting some of the elders to be judges. So you have people that go to them first. Let them handle it. If you can't handle it, then you come to me. So that shows you delegation. So there are so many other stories in the Bible, but I give people examples of self-care. Like self-care is in the Bible. It doesn't say self-care, but these are examples of how you nurse yourself, whether it's through rest, delegation, prioritizing what's most important. In Luke, I want to say it's chapter 10 or 11, one of those two. It shows Jesus, he was visiting Mary and Martha. And I want to, Mary and Martha. Yes, I'm trying to remember the correct one. Martha was the one who I feel like is a lot of women relate to her, especially moms. She was doing all the busy work. Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet and she got mad at Mary. And every time I hear that story, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can relate to that because I do that with my family, a little too often at times. You're like, nobody's doing everything. I'm doing all the work. And I have to be like Jesus, what he told Martha, you're worried about the wrong things. So sometimes you have to check yourself and remember what's the most important thing right now. Yes, I have all this work to do, but what's most important at this time? Sitting at Jesus' feet or doing busy work? It applies to our lives, period. Is it more important for me to be cleaning up or taking, getting a nap, getting my 8 hours of sleep, just taking a break to unwind instead of just worried about everything else that needs to be done or that I feel needs to be done?
Yeah, I mean, or even playing with the kids for a change. Like sometimes
Right.
I remember myself getting caught up in, okay, I've got to get these bottles washed. I got to get
Yeah.
this. And it's like, forget that. Get on the floor and play with them.
Yeah. We got to
Engage.
nurture these relationships, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I like that. And so you did give a few clues right there of what busy moms can do in terms, asking that very important question, what's important now?
Right. In this
Yes.
moment.
Yeah, like, and I think that's something that, when they finish listening to this podcast, that's something they can definitely activate right then. What are some other things, simple things that moms listening today could, sign off from this podcast and start trying to do?
I always, I think I mentioned it earlier, but I would say start small. Don't, whatever goals you have, your self-care goals or whatever goals, don't try to take on too much at one time. So for example, you just mentioned, spending quality time with the kids. Maybe you are so busy with whatever it could be, with work. Sometimes you're at work, the kids they are in all these activities or whatever. So you're not really spending a lot of intentional time together. Sometimes we're home together and everybody's doing their own thing, or we could be all be sitting in the same room on devices and everything. So it's about really being intentional about, okay, let me spend some quality time with my children. Look, if we're not spending any time, maybe start with the 5 minutes each day. Sometimes, and I always say, like, especially with little, well, both, yeah. So little kids, sometimes that's all they may need. They start playing with you, and next thing you know, they done went on about their business and started doing something else. My 13-year-old, he's always in a rush to get back to his playing with his friends. So look, if we can have a 5-minute conversation, great. A lot of times I'm being intentional about even just talking to him in the car. So while I'm doing like pickup and drop offs, let me be intentional about having a conversation with him right now. Whether he seems like he's interested in doing it or not. Because I know once he gets home, he's going to be in a rush to get on the phone or FaceTime or whatever he's doing with his friends. So just really being intentional about just if it's 5 minutes. Same thing, catching up with a girlfriend you haven't talked to in a while. Me and my mom, we're close. So making sure that I'm connecting with her, not just always through text message or whatever, like get on the phone and actually hear somebody. Because I can tell you I'm okay through the text message, but, being on the phone with me or FaceTiming could tell you a whole nother story. Like, you don't sound like you're okay. So whatever the case may be, just start with 5 minutes. You don't exercise at all and you need to start nourishing your body, moving around more. Start with 5 minutes. It could be 5 minutes here in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 5 minutes in the evening, 5 minutes. Just be intentional about that. One of my coaches, she tells me, same thing, you can start with 5 minutes, but you think about just 15-minute chunks in general. Like, okay, with the busy work, oh, I have to get this dishes washed. Oh, I have to clean up after the kids. You know what? Set a timer. Like actually literally put a timer on for the 15 minutes, or even if it's the 5 minutes. And when it is up, be done with it. And then move on to whatever is more important, So sometimes that really helps. Just thinking, I don't need a lot of time. Just maybe 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and just be done. Don't try to turn all your time. You're like, okay, I have to clean this house. Now they made a whole chore. And then again, it took away from that time that you could have had for yourself, that time you could have had for nourishing relationships with your children, your spouse if you're married. Really get back to thinking about what's most important and don't be afraid to start small. Master those habits and they can always increase.
We'll be right back after this. As the saying goes, mother's work is never done, except when it really is. I'm talking about my new book, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. I share my transformation from an outmanned, overwhelmed mom of twin boys to a parenting strategist and consultant, and being honored as DC Mother of the Year by American Mothers Incorporated. In Mother's Work, I tell you about the 7 guideposts that kept me anchored as I weathered the peaks and valleys of motherhood. Grab your copy at carolmaletta.com/motherswork. And we're back with the Parenting 411. So, how do moms work with you? Like, do you create customized sort of programs, or you have you have a cohort, or is it like 6 weeks? Is it 4 weeks? How do you do it?
Yeah, so right now it is one-on-one, and with one-on-one, again, it does, then it can be customized, because we are working specifically towards your goals. What's the problem? We're going to figure out what's going well, what's not going well. We're going to access some areas for action and abundance, find those areas that you need to nourish, whether it's the physical health, the mental health, the spiritual, or maybe a little bit of combination, whatever is going to be your self-care activity. Then we make those goals that I said, starting small. And that's a 12-week program. Soon in the near future, I'm planning on doing some group coaching programs as well for 8 weeks. And I really love doing that because when I'm in group coaching programs, I really love that community aspect. So I really think that's really good for the moms. Sometimes we're so busy, you're just thinking like, 10, 12 months. I mean, not 12 months, 12 weeks. It might sound long. So sometimes just kind of minimizing it, but still getting a little bit more of what you need in a little bit of time. Sometimes that's, I found that very helpful for me. So I'm going to start offering that for moms as well.
Yeah, so what are some resources that you could recommend for moms who want to learn different ways to take care of themselves and wellness, and to really understand what self-care is, because it's more than the pampering and all of that other stuff. It's really about tapping into what you need and in that moment, and what will bring. I liked what you talked about a moment ago, abundance, and fill your heart and your mind and spirit. So what are some resources that they could tap into?
Yeah, so I have a very free resource. So no excuses, right, moms? So I have a free resource called the Busy Christian Mom Self-Care Workbook. And in this workbook, it really takes you through the steps that I just talked about, but it breaks it down. So it really gives you time to reflect on each aspect. So it begins with giving yourself permission to say yes. So that's really one of the biggest things we have to begin with. I need to give myself permission to say yes to those things that I desire, those things that God is calling me to do. Those things are going to help me to be healthy, happy, have more peace and joy. So it really breaks that down, figure out what exactly do I want to say yes to? What do I need? And what do I need to start saying no to?
Yes, I was waiting for that.
Well, you're saying yes, you're going to you got to start saying no to some things too. So start saying no to whatever it is. It could be people or things that no longer serve your purpose. Those things that are wearing you down, or what I like to say, causing you to feel like a worn out mom. We want to start saying yes to those things that are going to cause us to win, and no to those things that are causing us to be, worn out mom. And then it breaks down each of those areas I just talked about, the physical health, the mental health, and the spiritual health. So for the spiritual health, it's trying to figure out, where you may feel like you're lacking, whether it's spending the quality time with God, and how, so figuring out how to do that, maybe just starting with those small action steps, creating 5 minutes to do this or that, however you want to connect with God. The physical health, you're trying to figure out if you need more nourishment, maybe the nutrition piece, how to eat healthy meals, or more movement, how to get that good physical energy going. So it really breaks that down. Where are you lacking? What do you want to do? What do you want to try? And again, create those 1 or 2 steps that you want to start implementing soon. The mental health, how are you going to de-stress? How are you going to nourish your mind? So it's really about de-stressing and, filling your mind with some substance is what I like to call also. So it's really helping you figure those different areas of your life out. So one area might be great. You don't have to do anything. one area you may figure like, oh, that needs a lot of tweaking, so it's kind of like a reflection journal in a sense. And then at the end of each section, it breaks down, not it breaks down, it helps you to break down what goals you want to set.
Okay, so and how can we get the workbook, and while you're at it, how can people keep up with what you're doing on social media, your website or newsletter or what have you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, www.sheisanourishmom. And it's so easy because I kept it simple. So you can find me everywhere. She is a Nourish Mom. She is a Nourish Mom on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, my podcast. Everything is She is a Nourish Mom. And yes, you can get that resource at www.sheisanourishmom.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, do you have anything coming up that you want to let us know about?
Yeah, so I have several speaking engagements, and they're actually mom centered. In May, I'm speaking at the Mom Empowered event. That's May 9th through the 13th. MommyCon is coming up, and actually that's moved to June. So June, I want to say the 19th or the 21st because she changed the date. I have my self-care mommy chats, which are monthly. The next one is May 2nd, and they're always the first Tuesday of every month. So keep in contact with me on that. You can get on the email list for that if you go to my website. And those are the main things because I can go on. I have a lot of stuff going on, but that's why you have to follow me so you can stay up to date with all these activities. But those two that I mentioned, they are specifically for moms.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me today because I know that moms really need to tune in, check in with themselves, and take care of themselves because they can't pour from an empty vessel. So I'm glad that you came on with me. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to like, share, and just subscribe to this podcast. And as we come up to Mother's Day, I have a special offer on my mini motherhood memoir, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. You can get a free copy. All you have to do is help out with shipping and handling. But in addition to that, you will get a webinar with a companion workbook. You'll also get an ebook on parenting. It's parenting in the pandemic, but honestly, it's a blueprint for how you parent in crisis. So what you'll want to do is just head on over to mothersworkthebook.com. That's mothersworkthebook.com. As always, follow me on the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And remember, it is never too late to be the parent you want to be.